I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Temecula Planning Commission to order. We could join Commissioner Ruiz as he leads us in a flag salute.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you guys would please stand up, place your right hand over your heart, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Hagel,
Here.
Commissioner Ruiz,
Here.
Chairman Watts,
Here.
and we have two excused absences from Commissioner Telesio and Commissioner Charlie Trejo.
Thank you. Public comment. A total of 30 minutes is provided for members of the public to address the commission on matters not listed on the agenda. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Public comments may be made in person at the meeting by submitting a speaker card to the commission secretary or by submitting an email to be read aloud into the record at the meeting. Email comments must be submitted to planningcommission@temeculaca.gov. Speaker cards for in-person comments will be called in the order received by the commission secretary, and then if time remains, email comments will be read. Email comments on all matters must be received prior to the time the item is called for public comments. All public participation is governed by the council policy regarding public participation at meetings adopted by resolution number 2021-54. Do we have any public comment tonight?
We have none?
So I probably could have skipped that, so I realized about halfway through, like, oh well. We don't meet often enough. We'll share the time and enjoy it. We'll go to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine, and all will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless members of the commission request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. A total of 30 minutes is provided for members of the public to address the commission on items that appear on the consent calendar. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Public comments may be made in person at the meeting by submitting a speaker card to the commission secretary or by submitting an email to be read aloud into the record at the meeting. Email comments must be submitted to planningcommission@temeculaca.gov. Speaker cards for in-person comments will be called in the order received by the commission secretary, and then if time remains, email comments will be read. Email comments on all matters must be received prior to the time the item is called for public comments. All public participation is governed by the council policy regarding public participation at meetings adopted by resolution number 2021-54. On our consent calendar tonight, we have minutes from our March 16th, 2022 meeting. And that's it.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Hagel, seconded by Commissioner Ruiz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that's 3 ayes and 2 that aren't here, so. Okay, we'll go to our public hearing. Any person may submit written comments to the commission before a public hearing or may appear and be heard in support of or in opposition to the approval of the project at the time of the hearing. If you challenge any of the project in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the commission secretary at or prior to the public hearing. For public hearings, each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Public comments may be made in person at the meeting by submitting a speaker card to the commission secretary or by submitting an email to be read aloud into the record at the meeting. Email comments must be submitted to planningcommission@temeculaca.gov. Email comments on all matters, including those not on the agenda, must be received prior to the time the item is called for public comments. Any person dissatisfied with a decision of the commission may file an appeal of the commission's decision. Said appeal must be filed within 15 calendar days after service of written notice of the decision. The appeal must be filed on the appropriate Community Development Department form and be accompanied by the appropriate filing fee. All public participation is governed by the council policy regarding public participation at meetings adopted by resolution number 2021-54. Okay, our public hearing is item number 2 on our agenda tonight, planning application number PA21-0838, a development plan for a 237-unit single-family residential community built on 27.5 acres. and PA 21-0839, a tentative tract map, TTM 38121, for condominium purposes for the creation of one residential lot, 2 open space lots, and 1 2.95 acre lot for street and highway dedication. The project is located at the terminus of Equity Drive on the west side of Yanez Road. And I believe Mr. Scott Cooper will be giving us a staff report.
Thank you, Planning Commissioner. So we got a little bit of a longer presentation than we've had recently, but big project, good project, so it's worth it. I'm not touching anything. Okay. That's not good.
Obviously, just waiting on some technical assistance.
Well, I don't know any jokes, and I wouldn't dare say I'm up here anyhow, so.
I
You are
thought
being
our-
recorded.
This reminds me of the uncomfortable feeling you used to get, you know, when you're in school and they pass out the final exam, everybody's quiet.
I thought our
stomach starts
our
growling.
Netflix subscription was canceled, so.
First time this has happened. There it is.
Thank you again. So as you stated, this is PA 21-0838 and 0839, which is the Prado project. So the project description, as you stated, is a development plan to allow for the construction of a 237-unit single-family residential community, as well as a tentative map, which is tentative tract map 38121, for the creation of one residential lot, 2 open space lots, and 1 2.95 acre lot for street and highway dedication. A little bit of background on the residential overlay as a whole. On December 1st of 2020, the second amendment to the Harveston Specific Plan was approved by the City of Temecula City Council. As part of that specific plan amendment, a residential overlay area was established which allows for the development of up to 1,000 units within that overlay. So the previously approved Heirlooms Farm project, or Heirloom Farms project, is 321 units. It's under construction. You can see the grading happening out there. The Prado project before you tonight is 237 units. So that's a total of 558 units, which would leave 442 allowable units to be built within the overlay. Now, where is that overlay zone? You can see Harveston here. You have the I-15. Top of the screen is Mercedes and Audi. And this is the location of the project before you tonight. And then just overall, without the overlay, that's the project location. It's generally located at the terminus of Equity Drive on the west side of Inez Road. As I previously stated, it is located in the Harveston Specific Plan Residential Overlay of Planning Area 12. It's 27.5 acres, 237 single-family homes, which is unique with this, especially in Temecula. Even though they are single-family detached homes, they are all for rent product. So if we want more information on that later, I'm sure the applicant can speak to that. So they are all two-story homes. They range from 1,410 square feet all the way up to 1,857 square feet. And then amenities within the project include a private recreation center, which has a pool, barbecue area, fitness center, a dog wash, a tot lot, bocce ball court, and then separate recreation areas where you have your typical tables, barbecues, game areas, open turf area, and picnic areas. So in terms of parking, there are 474 enclosed parking spaces that are required. That's per the Harveston Specific Plan. The project does provide the 474 enclosed parking spaces and then an additional 201 uncovered parking spaces that are located throughout the project. Site plan, in terms of access, there is a right in, right out, and left in on Inez. And then there's a full movement at Equity Drive. The right in, right out is the main entrance to the project. It takes you directly into the recreation center. And then at the top of the project is a secondary access. And then just to see what I'm talking about with Equity, that is the location of the full turn movement on Equity. So in terms of amenities, this is the overall project. The area in the box is the main area where all the amenities are. Blow that area up a little bit, and you have the private recreation center, the pool area with the barbecue, fireplace, seating and dining, the game tables, benches, bocce ball, cornhole, seating area, the tot lot, and then the open turf areas that have some DG pathways that you can walk on surrounding them. So in addition, on the site plan, they did create what we're calling some loop trails. So the one in, can't really tell too good, but the one in blue is about 3/4 of a mile. The one in green is just under a half mile. And then the Paseo loop that gets you around all the amenities is 0.38 miles. So in total, that's just over 1.5 miles of trails within the project. So in terms of architecture, there are 3 architectural styles throughout the project. There's Spanish, which is on 75 of the homes, Cottage, which is on 84, and finally CRAFTSMAN, which is on 78 of the homes. So a couple street scenes for you. So this would be the view if you're traveling along Inez Road, where you see the red highlight. So on the internal street scene, there are several instances where you're seeing the side of the house. So that would be the example in that location. And then there's also instances where you're seeing the rears of the houses. And that would be an example in that location. So in terms of enhanced elevations, you guys are very familiar with what we're doing with enhanced elevations with all the Somers bin product that we've been bringing. So for the enhanced, all the elevations along Date, Inez, the internal loop road are all considered enhanced. In addition to that, and these are the areas that you see in red, there are any area that's visible to the public are also enhanced, which is along the entry drive aisles and adjacent to recreation areas or open space. So you're not seeing just the plain rear of a house or plain side of the house if you're actually going to be in a rec area or on the streets. So for the elevations, what I did is on the plan 1s, we're going to go through and show the architectural style and specific elements of the style. And then for plans 2, 3, and 4, just show you the elevations and what the enhancements look like. We're not going to point out every single element. So on plan 1 is for the Spanish, you have the S-tile roof, ornamental ironwork, and your typical decorative Spanish tiles. So this would be your standard elevation, and then your enhanced with some extra ironwork and a pop-out. So on the cottage elevation, so you have your typical shutters, vertical windows, and brick accents along the base. So a standard elevation, and then again, enhanced elevation. As we move on to the CRAFTSMAN, you got your lap siding, paired windows, and then your classic posts that have the stone bases. So, and then again, your standard now, like this standard is already almost an enhanced elevation for what you see other places in the city. And then in the enhanced, again, you have the pop out that has the extra lap siding. So as we, like I said, as we move through the other plan types, not going to point out everything on the Spanish, but very similar to the first plan. So your standard, and then the enhanced that has the pop out as well as some extra shutters. So moving on to the cottage. So again, the shutters and the pop out on that enhanced. And then finally the plan 2 CRAFTSMAN. So lots of lap siding. Plan 3 Spanish. So, and the pop out, and it's on the opposite side this time. So, the Plan 3 cottage. And finally, the Plan 3 CRAFTSMAN. And then moving on to the final plan, which is the Plan 4, the Spanish again. Cottage. And finally, CRAFTSMAN. And then you have, this is the private recreation center, so this would be the view as you're entering the project, or if you're on the Loop Road, your elevation, Spanish-style recreation center. And then this is internal if you're in the pool and rec area. So this is the tentative tract map. So the area in red shows the entire project. So lot 2 is 2.3 acres. That is the open space and the private park. Lot 3 is 2.4 acres, and that's for slope and drainage. You have the Lot A, which is the 2.95 acres for the street and highway dedication. And then everything else left in white is the 21 acres, and that's the residential and the rec center. In terms of landscaping, there is no minimum landscape coverage requirement in the specific plan for this area, but landscape is provided within the LDZ, which is the landscape development zone. I'll show you that on the next slide. For Inez Road, the west and south project boundaries, in the rec areas, along the parkways of Loop Road, and then within the alleys. The reason we request within the alleys, so it kind of just breaks up the concrete and the garage doors. And then your plant types include the crepe myrtle, the London plane tree, kangaroo paw, Texas ranger, and cat's claw. So this area shows the landscape development zone, which is 25 feet behind curb. And then just to show what the landscaping will look like, again, you have the crepe myrtle, London plane tree, kangaroo paw, Texas ranger, and cat's claw. So moving on to the fiscal impact analysis, the city's fiscal policies require that a fiscal impact analysis be completed for any development that proposes an increase in residential density from what is currently allowed in the general plan. So the previously approved general plan amendment changed the land use from service commercial to specific plan implementation to allow for the residential development, which increased the residential density. When that general plan amendment happened, there was no housing currently proposed. So it was unknown at the time the size of residential projects, how many units there was going to be, so it was not possible to prepare the FIA without projects to analyze. So as each of these projects have come online, that's when the FIA has been required. So Heirloom Farms did one, this Prado project did one, we have another project in the pipeline that's in the middle of doing one. So the Harveston specific plan as amended requires that any residential projects within the residential overlay prepare the FIA. So in the FIA, what it does is it evaluates the recurring general fund revenues and expenditures generated by the project by estimating the fiscal impact on the general fund resulting from the development of the project over a 20-year time period. The FIA found that the project would result in a city services deficit. So the FIA will be used in the creation of a funding mechanism to pay the city as mitigation for the city's services deficit. So the project is also subject to the community-wide extraordinary public benefit. So on March 21st of 2000, the City Council adopted the Growth Management Action Plan, or the GMP. So the GMP applies when projects involve land use changes, including general plan amendments and specific plan amendments. So the previously approved specific plan amendment that we referenced earlier for Harveston requires that all future residential projects in the overlay provide community-wide benefits. In this case, the community-wide public benefit for the project, which was determined by the City Council Ad Hoc Infill Land Use Subcommittee, is a $665,000 payment to the city. And that payment will be used by the City of Temecula for citywide projects that benefit the community. So it's not for the benefit of the project community, it's as the community of Temecula as a whole. So I think, kind of as I already stated, the project was presented to that subcommittee on March 22nd of this year, and that was Mary Ann Edwards and James Stewart, and that's where the discussion on the community-wide public benefit took place. We do have a couple COA revisions, so there's a lot of text here. I don't have to read it all, but we have to get it into the record. So COA number 22 for PA 21-0838 has been revised to read, and it's just the change from May of 2022 to March of 2022. All the other language and the condition remains the same. So COA number 114 for PA 21-0838 has been revised to read. It's a traffic signal modification condition. Prior to the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy, the following traffic signal modifications at the intersection of Inez Road and Equity Drive shall be completed and operational. So fiber optic communications on Inez Road from Winchester Road to Equity Drive, traffic signal fiber communication equipment at signalized intersection receiving fiber, CCTV camera at Inez Road and Equity Drive, and upgrade a traffic signal cabinet at Inez Road and Equity Drive. A new condition of approval that was not in the packet for planning application 21-0838 shall read, and it's another traffic signal modification condition, is prior to the issuance of the 200th certificate of occupancy, the following traffic modifications at Inez Road and Equity Drive shall be completed and operational. Traffic signal modifications for the final connection of Equity Drive to Inez Road and completion of Equity Drive improvements to Inez Road. And then another new condition for PA 21-08-38, landscape median modification, which is prior to the first certificate of occupancy, the landscaped median modification shall be completed to the satisfaction of Public Works. And then no language is changing, it's just the threshold for condition of approval number 67 for PA 21-0839. It's been changed from prior to the issuance of building permits to the prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy, and there was a little bit of revision, so it's the landscape median modification again, revised to read, prior to the first certificate of occupancy, the landscape median modification shall be completed to the satisfaction of Public Works. Almost done with the conditions. Condition of approval number 69 for PA 21-0839 has been revised to read, and this is it's the same as for 0838, but we added into 0839 as well. Prior to the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy, the following traffic signal modifications at the intersection of Inez Road and Equity Drive shall be completed and operational. Fiber optic communications on Inez Road from Winchester Road to Equity Drive. Traffic signal fiber communications equipment at signalized intersections receiving fiber. CCTV camera at Inez Road and Equity Drive. And upgraded traffic signal cabinet at Inez Road and Equity Drive. A new condition of approval for PA 21-0839 shall read as a traffic signal modification. Prior to the issuance of the 200th certificate of occupancy, the following traffic modifications at Inez Road and Equity Drive shall be completed and operational. Traffic signal modifications for the final connection of Equity Drive to Inez Road and completion of Equity Drive improvements to Inez Road. Finally, on to environmental. So no further environmental is required per section 15162, subsequent EIRs and negative declaration, and section 15182, projects pursuant to a specific plan. What that means is that the project is consistent with the previously adopted Harveston subsequent environmental impact report and Harveston specific plan. With that, staff does recommend the Planning Commission approve PA 21-0838 and 21-0839 subject to the conditions of approval, including the revisions and new conditions of approval that were added. That concludes staff's report. I'm here for questions. The applicant is here for questions, as well as our consultant that prepared the fiscal impact analysis from KMA. Him and his team prepared that.
Very well. Before we move to the applicant and hear what they have to say, do we have any questions on the staff presentation? Mr. Hagel.
The $665,000 payment, is that to cover the 20-year, the deficit for 20 years?
Two different things. So the FIA is what covers the deficit.
Right.
The community benefit is completely separate from that.
Okay,
So that is a lump sum payment that goes into the city's fund, and it will be used for road improvements. Maybe the Harveston Sports Park gets new LED lights, a magnitude of things it could be used for. So it's two completely separate payment structures.
is that $665,000 a calculated amount based upon some group of criteria?
It was a negotiation between the applicant and the city council subcommittee.
Okay. That's it for now.
You mentioned the units are all rental, they're deed restricted rentals?
Well, can we table that until we're ready
Yeah,
to
that'd be
call
a
the
question for
applicant?
That'd be a better question for the applicant.
That's it then, for now.
Okay. Very good. Then no more questions. Staff, would the applicant like to step up and say a few words? We'd like to hear from you. And we may have some questions. In fact, I'm sure we do.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Spencer Rinker with HV Communities, we're the developer/owner of this project.
Good evening, Chairperson. My name's Lester Tucker. I'm also with AHV. I'd like to thank Scott for all the hard work he put in over the last, I guess, almost 10 months in working with us on the project design, as well as Luke and the rest of staff, including Annie over here, who's very helpful to get us here today. So we're excited for the project. We think it's the right project and the right location for the right reason and definitely at the right time. And I'm glad to field any questions that you guys may have.
Okay, we'll go over to Commissioner Ruiz.
Yeah, so is everything deed restricted? These are in perpetuity going to be just rental units?
That's not the intent right now, no. It is a 100% build for rent, luxury, single-family community as planned. There will be CC&Rs and a final map recorded on the project, consistent with the tentative map. If it was ever to transfer to a for-sale project, that isn't the plan. This is we will own and self-manage this project for long-term. And so if that was the plan later, there would be some type of mapping process to create condominium plans to support the sale of the units, but the intent is to maintain it long-term as a luxury single-family rental community.
Okay, and then I'm assuming that using the word luxury, market rate rentals on all units?
Yes, that's correct, Commissioner Ruiz, yes.
So am I reading this right, that you will own all of those properties? They're not being sold to individuals then?
That is correct.
Okay. So in
And-
place of an HOA, you will be responsible for the CC&Rs and so on and so forth, right?
Yes, we've talked about this internally quite a bit. It's actually a big switch where you're not bringing in 237 new homeowners. You're bringing in one. And we will be professionally on-site, self-managed from the beginning of the community throughout.
That's good.
We haven't had too many of these before, at least those of us that have been up here a lesser amount of time. Without going into a great detail, could you just maybe sum up what you just alluded to, is you're going to have it as, one management, but a little bit of how you got to there and why?
Yeah, I'll let Spencer take that one.
So we started this company roughly 10 years ago, recognizing a need for the demand of a demographic that was looking for the flexibility and freedom of a lease, but the benefits of homeownership and on-site professional management and amenities. Historically, over the last 10 years, we have not built one of these in California, so we're very excited about having this community here. We've actually been working on it. Correct, Lester, we've been working on it for approximately 3 years. Formally owned it since last summer, but we've been working on it for quite some time. But what our focus is as a company is being the premier developer/builder of these communities throughout the country. We're active in Colorado, Texas, Washington, Nashville, and hopefully soon Southern California. What we focus on within that is a spec level that is high-end, but still market rate. We have on-site professional management, as I mentioned. The amenities that you'd find at a Class A apartment, that's a fitness facility, swimming pool, tot lots, those sort of resident amenities, and operated and owned like a luxury apartment in the sense that we provide services, community activities, and it's all under one ownership, which we intend to own long-term.
Thank you. That helps a little bit since it's kind of new for this type of a project for us. So. Anything else of the applicant?
No, it's unique, and I think it fits a hole that we've got, so I think that's perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any public speakers?
We have no request to speak.
Okay. Any other questions of staff or applicant before I close the public hearing? Did I open the public hearing?
You didn't open it.
I opened the public hearing. Do we have any public speakers? We don't. I'm going to close the public hearing. Is that okay? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, very good. Discussion? Anybody care to make a motion?
I'll move the project.
Okay, so we have a,
And just to clarify, that's the motion to approve the project with the revisions to the conditions of approval
Right,
as
yeah.
read into the record.
Yeah, actually moving both the projects.
the development plan and the track
Yeah,
map.
and the
Okay.
track plan.
And seconded by Commissioner
And I'll second the
Ruiz.
motion, yes.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
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 And hearing no opposed, that's a 3-0 vote. Thank you. I think it's a good project. We're going to be watching it because it does provide a different approach to things, and we wish you the best of luck with that. And certainly the city stands to benefit by this, and appreciate all the effort you put into it. And once again, we will thank staff also for the work that they do on our end to get something that's acceptable to you as well as us. Thank you very much. Great. Thank you. Okay. See if I can get through the rest of this without goofing up. Commissioner reports. Do we have any reports done? I'll start on my right, Mr. Ruiz.
Nothing.
Mr. Hagel, none from me either. Commission subcommittee reports. Have we had any subcommittee meetings that
You want to go?
anyone's attended?
We had a subcommittee meeting here prior to this, discussing animal ordinance and Title 17. I believe it'll be coming forward at the next planning commission meeting on May 4th.
Okay. And I believe there's is it infill subcommittee that I still need to confer with you on?
Correct.
Okay, so I have a meeting scheduled, or at least a review scheduled with Scott, and I'll have to report on that when I come back next meeting.
Uptown Subcommittee.
Uptown Subcommittee, I'm sorry. There's too many, as you can see by the list in front of me. All right, very good. Community Development Director report. Mr. Watson?
I don't, but Matt Peters is going to give you a quick update just on QLMP, the last meeting we had, and just kind of where we're at with that.
Commissioner Turley Trejo is in here. She's the BRC rep for the Planning Commission. But we, as part of the process for the QLMP update, we have 6 meetings. on April 14th. That was our 5th meeting and final meeting. So we've gotten through all of the different core values, and we're to the point now where in June, we're going to have our final meeting and be going over the draft document. So we've made really good progress. The plan is for the draft document to go to the BRC a couple weeks beforehand, and then we'll review it at the June meeting. And they'll make any final edits, amendments, and then in July, it's going to go to all the boards and commissions, and then in August to the city council. So we have a pretty aggressive schedule, but we're sticking to it so far.
Maybe a crazy question, but is the final product going to be a final product? In other words, when it's presented to the commissions, is it just going to be presented as a package, or is it going to be subject to input and changes?
It'll be a draft document that's presented to all of the boards and commissions. We'll take your input, and that's going to be compiled, and then there will be revisions, and then the final document will go to the city council. So yes, you will have the ability to review and give your recommendations.
Everything's always subject to council
Well, of course.
changes.
Yeah,
I was primarily interested in input at our level.
yes, yes.
So it sounds like, yeah, you'll accept it, and then it has to be vetted and considered. Yes, that's standard, okay, very good. Is that it, Mr. Peters?
Yes, thanks.
Thank you very much. Anything else to add, Mr. Watson? Okay, and I'll apologize because I don't know our Public Works person's name. Annie. Hi, Annie, welcome. Can you give us a report on Public Works?
Annie, can you just turn your mic on real quick? Yeah. Well, it won't be recorded, yeah.
Yes, no public works comments or report at this time. The next meeting, Ron Marino will provide them.
Well, thank you for coming and making the presentation for us tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, and that should do it for our agenda, I believe. So with that, I will go ahead and adjourn our meeting until our next regularly scheduled meeting, which is Wednesday, May the 4th, 2022 at 6 p.m. right here in the City Council chambers. We stand adjourned.